All right, welcome back to another video. Last video, we set up Django with a linter. We organized the project a little bit. We set up GitHub repos, and we organized the URLs a little bit more organization. And this video, we're going to dive back into the front end, and we're going to see how we can get these schools displayed in a more visually appealing way than not at all. So my internet is bugging. I'd really like to listen to music while we do this. Okay, back to it. All right, so to start, the first thing I want to do is pick a UI library. I've done a little bit of research, and I've tried a few new ones recently. Like I've tried Tailwind. I've worked with Semantic before, Bootstrap. I don't know how you even pronounce this, Ant Design. Worked with Ant Design a little bit. And I think I'd like to try Ant Design again. I set up a project recently with Tailwind, and although I really like the UI that they have, I didn't love working with the crazy classes if you've used it before. So we're going to try Ant Design. It's got like some really comprehensive components to make our life easier. And yeah, it's free, so you don't need to worry about paying for it. What with Tailwind you do. So let's get into it. So getting started, there's an example. Let's actually figure out the installation steps first, ideally. So npm install AntD. Go back to the terminal, run that. Okay. Anything else? So now we can just import things apparently. So let's restart our front end. And before we go any further, you don't have to turn this off if you don't want to, but when you run npm start, it like launches the browser. And I hate that. It's so annoying to me. So wait, React scripts start prevent from opening. Because usually I already have it open and I've just stopped it to do something. This looks like a concerning solution, but let's give it a whirl. And we'll want to add that to our get ignore as well. Let's see what that does though. That's an odd solution. npm start. Okay, that works. So we'll take it for now. Hopefully it doesn't have any other side effects in the future. Okay, so now we have it installed. If we go to components, we want to start with a table. So let's go to table components. You can see they've just got like components on components on components. They've also got like a billion examples. It's actually kind of insane. You know, you've got checkboxes, you've got highlighted rows, you've got fixed headers, you've got actions, you've got pagination. We're going to make use of a lot of this. We're going to build out a component that just sort of has everything, I think, depending on how this works, but yeah, you've got like frozen headers, you've got double headers, you've got like frozen rows, you've got crazy indentation tables, just crazy stuff. So let's start with something simple. So you can have the basic usage example. Opening a new window, copy code. Let's not copy the code all the way. Let's work through it. Okay, so if we go over here, the place we're doing this is in our schools page. So if we open up our source folder, which we haven't done in a little while, you can go to pages, you can go to schools. This is where we're making our API request and then doing nothing with it. So we also need to save that state. And generally, this is actually a good place to do this. Generally, when I'm working on a page, if the page has like any ounce of complexity, which most pages do because they can have a lot of functionality, I actually like to turn the page into a folder. So this is the school's page folder. In here, you can have an index.tsx, which is like what you're rendering. And then within that, you can have, you can either break it down into another components folder, and these components are only used in the schools page. So you might have a school table in here, or you can just keep it in line with the index. But this allows your index file to stay quite simple, so you can sort of see what components you're working with, and you can jump to the component if you need to. So that's what I like to do. But what we need to do is we need to copy all this and move it into the index. And then we need to delete the schools file because we'll no longer be using it. So if we go back to the router, we'll actually have to import from index. And there might be a better way to set this up, and I'm going to spend some time looking into it because having a bunch of files named index is also a pain. It's kind of difficult to search, and that's quite annoying. You can see here we also have this relative import back to our plugins. So I'm actually going to pause again, and we're going to take a step back. And the first thing we're going to do is get absolute imports working. So you can do like at plugins, and at is always starting at source. I don't know why, but every single time I set this up, it's a pain in the ass. Create React app, use absolute import. So we'll see how far we can get because I like never have fun sending this out. Okay. So we have a TS config, compiler options, base URL. We don't have that one set yet. Okay. So apparently that's all we need to do. I'm skeptical. And it worked. Okay. That's actually so surprising to me. I have like struggled with that so many times, but whatever, we'll take it. Right, we had a little hiccup there with the recording software, so you might see a little blip right there. But let's go back to the Ant design stuff, and we're just going to copy this entire piece of code, and we'll work our way through it in the editor. So I've copied everything over here. We're getting a ton of ESLint errors. Let's run ESLint. ESLint fix. ESLint. I'm on the right project, right? Is it not ESLint? NPX ESLint. Okay, so if we go back here, it didn't even work. We'll figure that out later. Just ignore. Well, that is really annoying, all these semicolons. I didn't specify the directory, so that might be why I didn't do anything, but it didn't tell me I didn't specify a directory, which is kind of odd. There we go. Semicolons removed. Okay, so we go down this file. We're importing a few things from AntD, and we're also importing types from AntD EST. Interesting. We have an interface data type, which represents the data in the table. Ours is actually just going to be key and name, where the key is probably going to be the name. Oh, well, the key could be the ID as well. So we'll change that. And our columns, the only column we're going to have is name, and we'll leave an action on there just so we have more than one column. So the title is name, the data index is name, the key is name, and when we render it, there's nothing to do, it's just text. And when we render the buttons, it's going to be invite and also just the name of the record. We'll see how that works. I'm not sure how the key works on this, but, and then you can see here we have data with the data types. So this is the type that's passed into the table, and this is the type of like our data format. Oh, which are the same. Yeah, never mind. It's the columns is a list of the data type, and this is also a list of the data type. But we can just drop all of that because we're going to get that from our API. Or for now, we can keep it. Let's keep it for now, and let's get the table rendering, and then we can use our data. Just want to take some baby steps. So we have our type, we have our columns defined, we have the data we want to render defined, and then this component, which is our school table component, is going to return the table with the columns and the data. So now, if we import our school table, and I don't mind relative paths when they're referring to things like further in the tree than the component you're working in, because hypothetically, this component's never going to leave this area because it's always going to be used in the school page. But if we just render our school table component, let's see what happens. So it's compiling, it's trying to do some things right now. It's really struggling to compile. So we are getting some errors. Let's see if it's not enough to stop it. It's enough to stop it. Okay. Tag is defined but never used. So if we go back to our school table, tag was one of the components used in rendering a column on the table, which we're not going to use, so we can just remove that. And now, can't resolve plugins in schools. Okay. So when I thought this absolute import worked, it did not. And here we go down the train of why setting up absolute imports is awful. Oh yeah, this is exactly what we're running into. Paths and compiler options. We don't have that yet. Let's see what this does for us. Or its corresponding type declarations. I'm going to assume that's just sort of like a second error for can't resolve plugin. So restart our editor, see if that helps. Not looking great. Let's add TypeScript onto this because 2019. Whoa. Search for import module specifier. TypeScript preferences. Where am I looking at extensions? No, it's not an extension. How do you look at it in settings? TypeScript, okay. TypeScript preferences, import module specifier. This doesn't look like any of the options. uh, That we already did that, didn't we? You have to import it with the name. That doesn't sound right. See what I mean? Like, it should not be this hard to set up absolute imports in a React project. I don't even know why it's not default. Control comma, search for import. Oh, there we go. I don't know where I was before. Okay. Auto or non-relative. And their path is not nearly as complex as whatever this is. May need to restart the IDE. Okay. Hopefully that's it. That's a few articles we've seen now that recommend doing that. Go back to index. I'm not seeing an error there. And let's just restart our friend. Oops. And see if we get errors there. Perfect. Okay, so happy to see that that worked pretty well. When we refresh, and we get our table, and this is using our false data. So, but we do have a table, which is just brilliant. So now what we probably want to do is we want to use our data to populate that table. So first thing we need to do is when we get this response from schools, we need to store that data somewhere. So we're going to use a hook called useState from React. And the way this works is you define a const, you define the name of the variable you want the data to be stored. So schools is where it's going to be stored. A method to set that data, so set schools, and then a default. And by default, it's going to be no data. And then what we can do is we can say response equals that. and we can say set schools to the response data. And then what we can do is we can pass in data pass in our schools into our school table. So if we go here, let's open our school table. So now down here, we're also going to have a schools prop. This is getting hard to read, so this is actually a function component, and it will have a return method that does that, but we might do some other things in here with the schools perhaps. So schools is declared, but its value is never read. Property schools does not exist on type X. Interface props. What am I doing? So this gets an array of props, which is actually schools, which is a different type. We'll move all these types somewhere else because this is going to be a mess really quickly, but something like that. Property schools does not exist on type. How does it not? There we go. Block must be padded by lines, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So now this data type is the data type for our table, right? So our data right now has key and name, where in reality, all our table has, or all our data has is names. So I'm going to drop all this because that's our fake data, and we're going to use our API data now. But our data type, which is a school, is actually, it actually just has name, and we've defined that down here. So your school type, the columns type is going to be of type school rather than data type. And now we can't do action. Actually, we can do action. Okay. And now data source. So our data source is now our schools, right? And do that. And let's see what happens. I'm not even sure where we're at right now. Oh, we did it. Okay. So hopefully you followed that. I was kind of mumbling there. We defined our, so the props that are handed into the schools table is there's a schools prop, which is a array of schools, and school type is just, they just have names. The columns type is of columns type, or it's a columns type of type school. I think column type is probably, if we go take a peek at this. Key text. Okay, I'm not going to pretend to understand that. The columns is a list of schools essentially, where you have title, data, index, key, render, and the school is being passed in. That's interesting. But down here, school is our prop. Our columns hasn't changed, except the data source is now using our schools data rather than that fake data that we were using beforehand. And we're getting the data because we're making a request to our schools API. We're setting schools and we're taking that value and we're passing it into schools table as a prop, which is wonderful. I'm glad that worked so well right off the bat. Okay, now none of these links do anything. Delete doesn't do anything. You can't click on anything. But this is a great place to stop, I think. The next step is going to be, we're going to set up like a container so this table isn't just like stretching across the entire screen. We'll set up a container so it's in the center of the screen. And then I think we'll expand upon, maybe we'll add some fields to our school table and we'll add some functionality to the table. And let's just make this like the best table in the world. So that's the plan next. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time.